There's a specific kind of person who rarely gets talked about in psychology. Not the anxious one, not the depressed one, not the one who falls apart visibly and asks for help. The one who functions impeccably. The one who always knows what to say, when to laugh, how to make others comfortable. Who never causes friction, who absorbs conflict instead of creating it. Who has spent so long being easy to be around that they've become almost invisible, even to themselves. This is not a success story. This is a slow motion disappearance. Jung identified something that most modern psychology ignores. You can adapt so well that you lose access to who you actually are. Not because you're fake, because you're too good at being what's needed. The persona, the social mask we all wear, stops being something you use and becomes something that uses you. And the worst part? Nobody notices. Not your friends, not your family, not even you. Because from the outside, everything looks fine. You're reliable, you're calm, you're reasonable. You're the one people lean on, the one who doesn't make things complicated. But inside, something has gone quiet. Preferences have faded. Desires feel distant. You go through your days with a low-grade numbness that isn't quite depression, isn't quite anxiety, just a persistent sense that you're watching your life instead of living it. This isn't burnout. Burnout is exhaustion from doing too much. This is something else. This is exhaustion from being too little. From compressing yourself into acceptable shapes for so long that you've forgotten your original form. Let's get one thing clear. You didn't become this way because something is wrong with you. You became this way because something was wrong around you, and you were intelligent enough to survive it. Maybe emotions weren't safe in your home. Maybe having needs made you a problem. Maybe you learned early that the fastest way to peace was to want less, need less, be less. So your psyche made a deal. It traded authenticity for safety. It buried the inconvenient parts, the anger, the hunger, the raw wanting, and built a self that could move through the world without triggering conflict. That was smart. That was adaptation in its highest form. But adaptation has no expiration date. The strategy that protected you at 8 is still running at 38. The radar that scanned your parents' moods now scans every room you enter. The automatic agreeableness that kept you safe now keeps you stuck. Jung called this identification with the persona. When the mask fuses with the face, when you can no longer tell the difference between what you show and what you are. The persona was supposed to be an interface, a way to negotiate between your inner world and the outer one. But when it becomes total, the inner world stops sending signals. It goes dark. Not because it's empty, but because it learned that nobody was listening. And here's what most people miss. The numbness you feel is not a malfunction. It's a message. The psyche compensates when something is out of balance. When you over-adapt, it withdraws energy. The flatness, the boredom, the vague sense that nothing quite lands anymore. These are not failures. They're feedback. Your unconscious telling you that the current arrangement is no longer sustainable. The signal isn't something is broken. The signal is something is asking to come back. Here's the cruelest part. The more perfectly you adapt, the more alone you feel. People like you. Of course they do. You're easy. You don't make demands. You don't cause scenes. You're the friend who always shows up, the partner who always compromises, the colleague who never pushes back. Everyone appreciates you, but appreciation is not the same as being known. And somewhere inside, you sense the difference. The relationships feel fine, but somehow hollow. Safe, but not nourishing. You have people around you, and yet something in you remains untouched. Because they're not connecting with you. They're connecting with the version you built for them. The version that agrees, that accommodates, that never asks for too much. You can't even blame them. That version is all you've shown. This is Jung's insight about the persona taken to its logical end. When the social self becomes total, genuine intimacy becomes impossible. Not because you don't want it, because there's nothing left to offer. The real self has retreated so far that even you can't reach it. You've become a perfect mirror, reflecting what others want to see, but showing nothing of your own. And here's the paradox that keeps the cycle going. The emptiness makes you adapt more, not less. When you feel hollow inside, you look for validation outside. You become more agreeable, more accommodating, more attuned to what others need, hoping that if you just perform well enough, the feeling of connection will finally arrive. But it never does, because the connection you're longing for requires the parts of you that you've hidden away. You're trying to solve disconnection with more of what caused it. Chapter 4. What actually helps, not what sounds nice. I'm not going to tell you to be yourself or set boundaries or any other phrase that sounds good but means nothing when you don't know who you are or where you end. Here's what actually helps. First, recognize the automatic yes. Not to change it, just to see it. There's a gap between stimulus and response. Someone asks you something, and before you've even checked in with yourself, the agreement is already out of your mouth. Your work is to widen that gap. Not to say no, just to notice the moment before you say yes. That pause is where you still exist. Second, tolerate the discomfort of friction. The reason you over-adapt is because authenticity has a cost. It creates tension. It risks disapproval. Your nervous system learned long ago that friction is dangerous. Now you need to teach it that friction is survivable. Start small. Let a silence hang instead of filling it. Express a preference when asked instead of saying, "I don't mind." Hold a minor disagreement without immediately smoothing it over. The goal isn't conflict. The goal is proving to yourself that you can handle not being easy. Third, stop performing when you're alone. This sounds obvious, but it's not. Over-adapters often perform even in solitude, rehearsing conversations, imagining judgments, maintaining a version of themselves for an audience that isn't there. Notice when you're doing this. Notice the tension you're holding for no one. Practice letting your face do nothing. Practice not narrating your experience. Practice being without being anything in particular. Fourth, follow the envy. When you've lost access to your own desires, envy becomes a map. Pay attention to who makes you envious, not jealous, but envious. The friend who speaks without filtering, the stranger who takes up space, the person who seems to want things unashamedly. Your envy is pointing at something you've disowned. It's not showing you who you should be. It's showing you what you've cut off from yourself. Fifth, expect nothing to feel real at first. When you start expressing what you actually think, it will feel fake. When you start making choices based on what you want, it will feel selfish. This is not evidence that you're doing it wrong. This is evidence that your system has been calibrated to someone else's preferences for so long that your own feel foreign. The realness comes later. First comes the awkwardness of reclaiming territory that's been abandoned for years. Adaptation is not the enemy. You need a persona. You need the ability to adjust, to read situations, to modulate yourself for different contexts. That's social intelligence. That's how humans function together. But there's a difference between using adaptation and being used by it, between choosing to accommodate and forgetting that you ever had a choice. The numbness you feel is not proof that something is wrong with you. It's proof that something intelligent inside you is trying to get your attention. The flatness is not emptiness. It's a withdrawal of energy, a signal that the current arrangement has become too expensive. What protected you once can imprison you now. Survival strategies don't announce when they've expired. They just keep running, long past their usefulness, until you finally notice what they're costing you. If any of this felt familiar, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means something in you stayed alert, stayed watchful, kept adapting long after it was necessary, because that's what it learned to do. The task now is not to fix yourself. The task is to make room for the parts that went into hiding, to listen for what went quiet, to find out what's still there, underneath all that effort to be easy. It might take time. It probably won't feel natural, but it will feel like something. And after years of feeling nothing in particular, something is enough to start. This channel is for people who hold it together on the outside, while something slips away on the inside. If that's you, you're welcome to stay.